Here's a simple concept: black dude, vampire, sword, kills other
Okay.
vampires.
Okay.
Sounds pretty cool, right?
Sounds like you, Sean.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Why is it that Marvel can't seem to take that very simple concept and turn Blade into a premier character, not just in comics, which they've tried to some
Mm.
varying degrees of success, but in the movies too?
It's such a weird concept. Not the concept of Blade. Blade is actually probably one of the more straightforward concepts in comics. But it's just a weird concept that they can't nail him correctly. I mean, it worked. Those Wesley Snipes movies, for what they were, they worked. There was three of them. You can't say it didn't work if there was three of them. Yeah, the third one was probably the worst one, allegedly. I haven't seen it. Uh, but it was working for a time. Even before the idea of superhero movies was as big of a thing as it is now. So we know the formula works. But the fact that they can't really nail it properly in the comics or in TV and in film is so weird to me, man.
I think it needs more romance.
There
Yeah, you got.
is.
I think you need more. I think you make it a teen drama,
Oh God.
Vampire Diaries, Buffy. That's where vampires niche is. That's the cross section.
So we missed out on the vampire romance Blade. I think that Blade was kind of missing for a good chunk of that. Actually, no, there was a TV show, wasn't there, Sean? Around that time?
There was a Spike TV show, but it wasn't. It
It
was
wasn't romance, yeah.
no.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's like vampires are in. They're always in. People love them. And the fact that, just this cool concept. Like Sean and I, big Buffy heads. Buffy is even getting a resurgence soon. It's filming right now. Sarah Michelle Gellar looks great. But why can't they just make a cool guy Buffy, Like it seems easy to me.
It's because people don't watch Buffy for the vampires,
Fair.
and Blade as a concept has never been able to define him and his supporting cast in a way that's interesting beyond the pitch that I gave. I don't think that's enough to make a character really shine. Um, it's cool, but is it blockbuster? That I'm not so sure about. And the original Blade trilogy was good. Well, the first two were good, but I don't think it proves that Blade can work on a massive scale. And the comics that I've read that have included Blade over the last decade just haven't been too good. They haven't explored him in a way that I find interesting.
I
Would
think the most recently, I don't know whose run it was. Um,
Brian Hill.
it might have been Brian Hill's run, but the whole idea of Blade and his daughter. I know people kind of groaned at that. It was like, oh no, it's all new Marvel now coming again. Um, but the reason why Superman didn't work for me, um, he worked when he became a dad for me for some reason. And I wonder if they should have capitalized on that version of Blade they were doing. This distant father who didn't even know he had a kid, dealing with his, revolutionary kid trying to find her way in the world when he has a very staunch idea, a very black and white idea of what the world is. And I feel like they only touched that briefly, that dynamic, and it hasn't really been touched since. And I think that might be a good in for at least the drama aspect of it. It makes Blade more than just cool trench coat guy.
when you say cool trench coat guy, when Sean you say it's just a cool concept, I feel like that's where my familiarity with Blade ends. And outside of something like Blood Hunt, right? I think the interactions that I have with the vampire realm in uh in Marvel Comics and with Blade is minimal. Unless he gets propped up by something, there is no other contact for me that I'm interested in. So I think it's a situation where in the publication, you attach it with a huge push by a creator, by some creative team, so that I have to make direct contact with him so that I can get interested and invested in that character.
the one that what you're describing is, I think, what Jed McKay did really, really well in his Moon Knight run, and that's still going.
Mm.
That run started around when the time the TV show was coming about, you know? And it's been going since steady, even though it's been multiple different series in between. But it reestablished who he was and kind of solidified the complications that the character of Mark Spector and Moon Knight is. Solidified that, and then gave him a supporting cast with historical context, like Tigra, who he was an Avenger with, and then like one of his D-list villains, 8-Ball, kind of being a friend to him, and then added new characters to it. And I think that's something Blade could use, a supporting cast. He needs his own Scoobies in a way.
Well, one thing they never do with characters like Blade is hand them to a writer who has established themselves and let them do their thing for a long time. Jed McKay has had the opportunity to do that with Moon Knight for a few years, but Blade never gets that. Like Blade had the Brian Edward Hill. There were two series, but they were both minis. And I get why they're minis, but if you're not going to give the character real rope, how could Brian Hill dive deeper into Blade than anyone has before in 6 issues?
Yeah, those are like mini minis too. They were only like 6, and he had like a one shot as well, right? Wasn't there like a one shot teeing up some kind of event?
I don't remember.
The Red Band or whatever.
That was a series.
That was part
A
of the
mini.
series. Okay, cool. Yeah, no. How do you get momentum? How do you gain traction when you have to tell such a little story? And then that Brian Hill book, you read it, right, Sean? Or a good
Yeah.
chunk of it? Yeah. Did you like it?
I liked it for what it was.
Sure.
Brian's talented, so whatever he does works, but it again, it doesn't illuminate the Blade character in any way, and it doesn't add meaningful, lore or supporting cast to him that I cared about. And we could be having this conversation about almost any character
Yeah.
that doesn't have footing in Marvel or DC, and the reasons are very similar in every case. Like I defy a person who's just a casual reader to tell anyone what the defining characteristics of Blade are other than black, cool vampire.
That's fair. Honestly, as a comic book reader, I don't think I can give you much more than that either.
I don't think Marvel knows.
Yeah. And I think that's an issue. There was in Jason Aaron's Avengers run, that's when I think Blade was on the team because they were planning on putting out a movie a little sooner than they actually ever did. But Blade joined the Avengers, and it was a really weird addition. But Aaron had this really interesting story going on the sidelines where the Vampire Nation, which was like taking over the Chernobyl area because they weren't affected by radiation. So the Vampire Nation set up there, and Blade was essentially the sheriff and the liaison to Avengers. And I thought that was a great kind of premise for something. It was like a Western in the middle of Eastern Europe with vampires, but that was only ever on the periphery. And occasionally the Avengers book would check in on that. And then the Brian Hill run, which was a lead up to Blood Hunt, right? And yet had nothing to do with Blood Hunt, was mind boggling to me.
To further that point, the original Wolverine run, I think like either right at the start of Krakoa, dealt with the Vampire Nation as well.
Yeah.
But again, only in the periphery. That part was interesting to me. I had never seen up until that point a cross section between the Marvel universe and vampires in general. So as a new concept, that fascinating, right? And I read that run through up until we got past the nation pieces, so maybe in the early 20s.
Yeah, it's pretty early.
And it's of interest. There's something there. It has legs, but from there, it's only ever touched in the periphery. There is
Yep.
no need or desire to focus on it. It seems like a part of the X-Men where they or the of the Marvel universe where they only want to touch in Avengers, in X-Men. They don't want to make full contact with it.
Which I think is a shame too, because like, yeah, Blade is really cool, but the characters that can exist within a Blade book are really cool too. Like that's a place where like Marvel's Dracula is rad as hell. Um, Elsa Bloodstone would fit in perfectly as a side character in a Blade book. So I think there's the whole mystical side of things. Like, yes, Blade is a vampire hunter, but there is a mystical side. Like, the video games actually, I think, gotten Blade better recently than most. I believe Blade was in Midnight Suns, which was essentially a romance turn-based RPG. And Marvel Rivals just put out Blade, and he has both the symbiote and the Venom and the Phoenix Force. In some weird Marvel-esque story that they're telling. So even then, I think other non-comics and non-TV stuff are doing interesting things with Blade and having fun with it. But it's just so weird that it's not happening where we consume comics.
I don't think gimmicks like that are what Blade needs. I think they need to figure out how to just present the character and build him up. Giving him a symbiote won't help. Making him cosmic won't help. Making him the leader of Avengers won't help. It is only superficial. And look, Captain Marvel had an ongoing for a very long time, and she was used and shown and put in our faces for years. And I'm talking about Carol Danvers, even when she was Miss Marvel. So when it was time to believe in her as a core Avenger and a meaningful player in Marvel, it wasn't hard to do because they had done work for a long time to make you think that way. They haven't done that same legwork with Blade. And that's really the key issue. You put Jonathan Hickman on Blade, you probably have something.
You have data pages that are all mystical sigils, is what you have.
I fuck with that.
That's me talking to Hickman if he ever watches this. Like, oh, there's something you might like to do, buddy. There's some graphic design there that could be fun.
Call up Laraz. I'm down to see that.
Yeah.
Rob V.
Oh, Romby would be a great take on that. Yeah. Yeah.
But see, that's the thing, right? We're talking about putting forward a all-star creative team so that you could put out a banger book so that you can attract people who wouldn't otherwise read it. I go for a Hickman, I go for a Laraz, I go for a Rambi. Oh, you're writing this? Damn, maybe in the first issue, 2 issues, 3 issues, you have me on the hook. I'm gonna follow the arc.
I guess they did try this recently and it didn't really work. My thinking was, do you do the other Marvel way, being put out your mystical Midnight Suns book and then spin out of that solo titles? See if that hits. Put a huge creative team, like kind of what they're doing with Imperial right now, for the magic side of things. Do that, and then you could spin out. Is that a trajectory that would make sense to you?
Personally, I find magic a tough trick in superhero comics. Really, any character whose origins or powers or whatever tie them to another genre, I feel like tends to have trouble. There aren't a ton of magic users that are super popular in comics. And I would say the same about horror characters. There aren't a ton that are really popular. And I think that a lot of the reason why is because creators tend to lean on the genre and not the character. And when you bring up like something like Buffy, yes, is a show technically that is a horror show in the sense that it's got a lot of monsters and stuff like that. But that's not what the show is about. And that's the problem. Comic books tend to be about whatever the genre is about, and that doesn't create a meaningful relationship to character.
And it's funny when you mention like magic in comic books, my mind does not go to Marvel. It went instantly to Zatanna, not a Goon Alert. Don't get me. But it goes to Zatanna, it goes to Constantine, it goes to Justice League Dark. And it almost goes in like a Vertigo way for me. And like, I didn't even touch Doctor Strange in my head. You know, look at Doctor Strange right now. It's an Asgard book. Like, even they are kind of eschewing the magic side of things.
He's not even a Sorcerer Supreme anymore.
No, that's Sean's favorite right now, Doctor Doom.
They've also done a lot of work with Doctor Strange as well. He is a fully realized character in a way that Blade is just not. And I think that, you know, you can look at character like Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing's super cool. Um, he really can't keep a book on the stance like that outside of the Rom V Mike Perkins. Because most of the time you're going to get something really interesting and cool and something that explores something esoteric and deep. But do you make me care about what's going on with the person underneath that swamp visage?
And plus, you could just do Hot Swamp Thing with Poison Ivy. That's still ongoing right now.
Well,
But like you mentioned, the mention of Doctor Strange, they did exactly what you said they should do, Sean. They put Jason Aaron and Chris Bachalo on the book when they were relaunching it. It was like, hey, this Doctor Strange is someone to look forward to. This is an ongoing. And then after that was Donny Cates. And like now it's one of those characters where like he has a more steady book than Iron Man because they put investment into it.
you know what? That run is the only reason I started picking up a Doctor Strange ongoing.
The Jason Aaron one or the Donny
Yep.
Cates one? Yeah.
The Jason Aaron one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
With
phenomenal.
Bacalo.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the power of the creative team. You're bringing them in. I tangentially knew Aaron from other work, so I'm gonna give this a shot. Hey, this is a lot of fun. That's one where it's like the technology and the
Yeah.
draining out the
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. But like Jason
good.
Aaron was hot as hell back then.
Yep.
You know? And
Doctor
then,
Strange was also a fixture in
yep.
Jonathan Hickman's New Avengers, which everyone was reading.
Even
so they spun that off
Yeah.
into the Aaron stuff. And it's like, if you were reading New Avengers, you've been caring deeply about what this character is going through. Here's an ongoing to see the aftermath.
Fair. I mean, he was even pretty integral to the tail end of Bendis' New Avengers too.
Yeah.
So that continued. Yeah. They're not really seeding it with Blade right now, besides a gimmick book they put out occasionally.
I also think it's worth pointing out that Blade has never been particularly popular. He's not really like, you could probably fill maybe an omnibus or two worth of Blade centric material.
And most of those would not even be Blade books. They would be Tomb of Dracula.
Yeah, if we were strictly saying Blade books, I really wonder how much material there even is out there.
Good point.
So let us know your thoughts on Blade. Is Marvel fumbling Blade? What do they need to do to make Blade pop? Is it even possible? Leave it in the comments. See you in the next one. Take care, guys.